The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
Everybody for joining us today on the Mangano Family Foundation Doing Good radio show. We're here with Sal Mangano, who's the president of Mangano Family Funeral Homes, and our special guest today is Riverhead Town Clerk Jim Wooten, who also serves as a family services assistant at Tuthill-Mangano Funeral Home. Jim and Sal, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so Jim, you were elected as Riverhead Town Clerk in 2023 after serving 3 terms as Riverhead Councilman. So obviously you love Riverhead. You're a multi-generational Riverhead resident, and your family's been there for a long time. So tell us about why you love Riverhead, and talk about why you chose politics and being an elected official.
Well, I think it comes down to just the history of the Riverhead. I mean, my mother was born there, my grandmother was born there, so naturally I was raised in Riverhead, and I knew Riverhead, 60 years ago when it was quite a little smaller than it is today. But I became a police officer as a young kid, and spent 25 years doing that. I don't find politics, as you know, I think is community service, really. To being a politician is one to serve the community in the best way that you can. And so I took that avenue when I retired from the police department. And then, of course, my part-time job on the nights was working at the local funeral home, which I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed the interaction with the families. And then when I retired as a town councilman, I turned myself out. Sal, who was recently purchased the Tuthill Funeral Home, asked if I would stay on. And we became very good friends, and I saw his involvement in the community and his investment in the community. And it was a nice fit for me. So I stayed with him, and then the opportunity came to run for town clerk where I could serve the town again, and I did that, and that's where we are today.
That's great. And so what are some of the things? So you were, town councilman for 12 years?
12 years, yeah. So
what were some of the things you enjoyed about that position?
Well, we did a lot of work. The master plan had just come in, so it was a lot of rezoning going on. There was a lot of community where we had the money come in from the 2% tax for land preservation and buying up farms and trying to create that atmosphere north of Route 58, the agricultural shift that we did. That, and of course, I got more involved in the politics of it as far as the community. So I created 2 dog parks, and I created legislation for telephone poles that were broken that had to be replaced, and I really put Verizon on the shopping block to get that fixed. So there was a lot of little things like that I did behind the scenes.
And Riverhead is such a wonderful community. It's very diverse constituencies you have to work with, from farmers to business people, and it's really an amazing community. And
it's a growing community, and now we're going through a big renaissance, of course, with this town square project that's going to be really change the whole face of Riverhead. Through our community development, we were able to secure over $24 million in grants, which was for acquisition of land and creation of a town square, a parking garage, and there's just so many moving parts to it. But we're going to be breaking ground very shortly, probably in the next month or 2. It's probably a 5-year plan, but it's going to change the entire face of Main Street. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and I think you did, almost the impossible, which was really preserving the beauty of Riverhead, the traditions, the history, while recognizing, understanding that things need to advance and move forward.
Well, and right, the balancing of, with all the open space that we preserved, over 7,000 acres, that had to be balanced off with commercial growth, of course. You have to balance the pod. So, of course, 58 became Route 58, which is a big commercial district for us. And so we had to balance that off with what's north of 58, which is all the farmland and the wineries and the buffalo farms. And I mean, it's a nice balance. And And if you go 1 or 2 blocks off of Route 58, which are our main corridor on the north side, it's pure beautiful. I mean, it's just an absolute beautiful, and that will never change. So you have to balance that, and then we have the school district, which has its own problems, which we're helping them with that. But that's their own little government. But we have a big influx in our community. I think Riverhead's probably one of the fastest Spanish communities in town. In fact, our elementary schools are over 70% Spanish. So we're looking to hire additional interpreters and stuff. I'm hiring one in my office starting next week just to help us with that, to bridge that gap and to try to really address that need in our community as well.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yep.
And, so you were in councilman for 12 years, and now you're back in Riverhead as town clerk.
Town clerk.
So talk a little about what the town clerk does. I know if I need a dog license and a marriage license in the same day, I go to you.
Right.
But
as long as you're not marrying your dog, it's a good check. Yeah, no, it's really, the town clerk's main job is to secure the records and keep records, whether it's vital records, whether it's birth certificates, death certificates, or marriage certificates, dog licenses, fishing licenses. That's the day-to-day stuff that we do. But there's more. I create agendas, issue local laws that are voted on. They have to go to the state, oaths of offices, marriage officiant. There's a lot of moving parts to it. Most of it is just record retention and record keeping, really.
Gotcha. And that's, is that a 4-year term that you have?
It's a 4-year term.
Is there term limits on that?
There is not, but I think that the governor in New York is trying to move everything to even years. Now, Riverhead passed a resolution to pull a home rule to keep elections on the odd year, and we lost that. So now we're filing an appeal in Supreme Court to see if we can get that overturned. So my first year is a 4-year term, and if we can't get that overturned, then my second term would be a 3-year term. So until everything goes on to even years. Gotcha. I sort of like the odd years, to be honest with you. I think local politics and local people running for office really is a community thing. It's not,
doesn't get lost in the shuffle then.
You absolutely get lost in the shuffle. I mean, you want to pick a president for the United States, why do you have to go all the way down to the, 600 names to find what you're doing at a local level, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also going to cost a lot more money to try and run campaigns, to try and get your message out there.
That's true.
The unintended consequences, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah.
And a local level, and a lot of times party line doesn't really play too much of a line in a local level. It's really your ideas and where you stand on issues locally.
Yeah, listen, there's an old adage, there's no Republican or Democrat way to pick up the garbage, right?
That's very true.
I mean, it's really hyper-local. People are high touch and know their local elected officials.
Yeah, I mean, when you come there with local politics, it's about what you can do for the community and how you would make it better, or, it really is, it's a whole different level than the national, to be honest with you.
And you really have dedicated, your entire life to public service. And talk to us a little bit about, your time as a police officer, how you went into that. I think you were also was PBA president? Or?
I was. I spent most of my, about 12 years on the PBA president and vice president. I kept going back and forth with the president I was vice and he was president, and then he was vice and I was president. So we went back and forth and back and forth. Yeah, that was just about looking after the rank and file, trying to get decent, salaries and benefits, and, looking at the long run for the police officers. So I'm trying to think. I became a police officer only because I wanted to help somebody. When I was young, I was like 20 years old, a friend of mine died in a really bad car crash, and it was because of drug-related at that time. I mean, it was the 70s. I mean, who wasn't? But so I really decided I was going to, I want to do something about that. And my career took a lot of different changes. I was a patrolman, and then I was a footman, and then I actually went into the East End Drug Task Force, became an undercover police officer. Did a lot of work with drug interdiction and drug buys. Then I did a street crime unit, and then as I got older, I ended up being in property and evidence in court and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think I've touched everything. I was probably the Forrest Gump of Riverhead Police Department. To be honest with you. There's not much I didn't do in the police department, but the PBA president was a big deal for me, really.
And how large is the police department in Riverhead?
Well, when I was PBA, I retired almost 20 years ago. there was 84 members. Now there's 100 members.
Wow.
Our current supervisor, Tim Hubbard, made it his mission, because he was a retired police officer as well. He did 32 years, so he did like 10 years more than me. And he knew the need. There was a study done maybe 15 years ago that said that 100 man was what we needed in the town the size of Riverhead, and we never got it. So unfortunately, I'm glad he did. I mean, we built it up to 100 men, or women, 100 officers, and but it cost us. It cost us the tax rate. We had to bust the cap last year to do that. But in the long run, I mean, maybe I'm talking out of school, but I think the only thing the government has to provide is safety and security. So of all our tax dollars that we put into all these different things, that's the main thing for me, because the residents really demand it. They feel secure. They want somebody to answer crime and help and all that. So it's the only thing that the government should be funding. I mean, without a doubt. All the other things we can look at, but that's the main thing for me.
Yeah, and it's nice that, I know that the town, has such a great reputation in terms of, working with other law enforcement agencies and our district attorney and our sheriff. And I think now, for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of cooperation out there amongst all different agencies and levels of government. So it's nice.
Oh, yeah. Well, Riverhead's still a township, but I mean, we depend on the county for their homicide detectives and their crime labs and their, all of that. So, and there's a working relationship with the county as well as the state, actually, with that too.
And so, running for political office obviously is not for everybody. And, you kind of put yourself out there and probably at times saying, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But what kind of drove you to run for office the first time?
I really think it was, in fact, I know it was my wanting to serve the people of Riverhead. I mean, there was not one particular issue that I was up on, but this goes back to, 1996, the town was gifted the Grumman property, which is Epcal, which is a 3,000-acre land up there in Calverton. And for almost 10 years, the town, they got a committee together, and they're going to look at economics, they're going to look at development. Nothing ever happened. So I remember my very first speech running for office was, we got to do something with Epcal, because we've got to not only give the economics that we need, but we have to create jobs, we have to do all of this, and that the property is perfect for it. And that's what I ran for in 2007. Here we are, fast forward, it's still sitting there, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, but that was my big thing, to try to do something with Epcal to create a future for the town of Riverhead, really. Yep.
I remember that election, one of the best slogans in politics, rootin' for Wooten. I remember it.
I still use that, actually. I used it this past. Yeah. That's
going to go. The Long Island Politics, museum as one of the...
Yeah, rootin' for Wooten. And then people have taken a pun on that, too, with saying other Tootens and... but I won't tell you what they came up with. But
And I know, part of your, career, and just, your personality and your reputation is really rooted in volunteerism and the local community. And I know part of your bio, that you're, 50 years serving as a trustee and deacon in the First Congregational Church.
That's still a big part of my life.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that and why it's important, to give back to the local community on the volunteer level and
right. Well, because everybody has talents, everybody has gifts, and everybody has a desire to serve. I really believe that. But I was, unfortunately, when I was 10 years old, my father passed away at 42 years old and left, I had 5 brothers, so left my mother alone. And a young pastor at that church visited our house, and I became a member of that church when I was 11. And I've been there ever since. But throughout my teenage years running a youth group and then moving into adulthood and becoming a deacon. And then actually when I got into the police department, started into drug interdiction, and there was a lot of problems in Riverhead. The crack hit Riverhead in 1988 is when it hit Riverhead, and we lost a whole generation to that. But during this time in the church, we were doing food pantries and giving out food. then I'd be doing drug interdictions in an area of Riverhead, and I'd see our food going there being traded off for drugs. So I was like, well, this is no good. So then we decided to create a soup kitchen where we feed people. So now people come. To this day, we have almost 400 people a week to come to get food.
Wow.
You know, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we give out meals. So, and that helps out a lot. So we feel better giving food. But that whole volunteerism, it comes down to pretty much who I move. The circles I move in are all people that give back to their community. You know, see, I belong to Townscape, which runs the country fair, and it does the summer concert series, and so I've coordinated those with a lot of help from Sal, by the way. So it's just a way to. I'm just so involved. I mean, Sal will tell you whenever I work at the funeral home, there's very rarely a family comes in that I don't know somebody in that family. You know, and it comes from 65 years being in the town. I've seen it change, but I think giving back to your community, and it just makes it home. No matter how big the community grows, it makes it home. And there's so many volunteer organizations in Riverhead, between the anti-litter committee and my gosh, there's just I didn't even make a list of all the volunteer committees that we have in Riverhead, but there's plenty to do, and it's just fun to give back.
Yeah, it's so important, and that's one of the things, with Sal and the Family Foundation is, they're so ingrained and involved in the local communities that they serve, and that's, really one of the goals about putting on, like a show like this is to, highlight those opportunities.
Well, if I could say something about Sal, and not because he's sitting near me, but I can tell you when he purchased Tuthill's and I was there, I could not believe he didn't just give to town. He became a part of the community. I mean, not only did he run a shredding event once or twice a year every year, something that was unheard of. I had the summer concert series I used to run every summer, like 8 concerts in the park. He'd say, how can I help? He'd sponsor a band. He'd give out giveaways. He was always there. The very first time we had a Halloween fest, there was a coffin race. Well, guess who sponsored all of it? You did. I mean, out of the blue. And they didn't ask him. He said, how can I help? And he reached out to the coordinator and says, I'd like to give out prizes. And so he actually adopted Riverhead, and he makes it part of his life. And I realize he has 3 locations, but I don't think everyone is important to him. But we certainly appreciate all he's done for Riverhead, for sure, with all the things he's done.
Thank you very much.
It's true, and you continue to do.
And it's not just, when you go and, ask for assistance, Sal and his family and the funeral homes are always saying, what can we do to be helpful? How can we get involved? What do you need from us? And that's something that makes, Sal and his family and the foundation so special, is that they're very proactive in their involvement in the community.
Right, and, I realize it's a funeral business, but they understand people, and they understand, how to make things, how to make things better. I mean, you run the Christmas drive that you do, and the Thanksgiving drive, and I can't even begin to, all the things I probably don't even know about. Involved in Rotary, I mean, all the things he's done and continue to do. And if you ever drive down Main Street and you look at his home, Tuthill-Mangano Funeral Home, it's beautiful. The plantings and the flowers. And
thank you very much.
I know, I used to work there. I used to, can you get out and wipe the railings? Yeah, but whatever, so you get a chance, can you pull the weeds? But whatever, I mean, he cares about the community, he cares about the impression that he gives. It's good. It's really good. So.
Yeah, and Sal, if you want to talk a little about, Riverhead and, your involvement there. And
Riverhead's a beautiful community. It's a growing community. I believe they're changing for the better now. There was a little period of time where they were like a little bit stagnant, but now Jim and the rest of the board, they're just doing all the right things in the community, and it's a great place. A lot of families moving out there. They like to, it's a place for families to grow, and it's a great area.
Yeah, and they're creating more opportunity, more small business opportunities, and with more housing and more development.
Well,
that's in a positive manner.
That's exactly
on the right way.
Because I remember people were saying, "Oh, Main Street's," but you know what? shopping trends changed in the early 80s, late 70s. People weren't going to mom and pop stores. They were going, my mother had 5 kids. She's not going to go down to, a local shoe store and spend $200 on shoes. She's going to go to Tom McCann, or she's going to go to Favor, or that's the way it was. People were going to go to Grant's, or then it became Woolco, or it became Caldor, or whatever, and then it became Walmart, whatever it is. That's what people were doing. So those trends all changed. And now I'm afraid, go ahead a decade from now where 58 is all these big stores. People are doing all online stuff now. So the town's going to have to get ahead of the curve there to find out what we're going to do with 58 down the road when all of a sudden some of these bigger stores are saying, So we're going to have to maybe look at some creative zoning along 58 to take that place when that happens. But they're always trying to stay ahead. And Main Street is going to be really a place to come, see a show, maybe hang out near the river, do some fishing, playground, have a couple drinks. It's going to be a nice place to gather with your family. There's no doubt.
No, that's fantastic. And I know the foundation has been very busy recently. Sal, I know, supported Middle Island Caring for Kids and Little Flower Children and Family Services. We went out there, did a big donation for Easter,
yes,
which was very well received. I know you do a lot of work with Middle Island Caring for Kids.
We do,
church.
And the pastor across the street, he's a great guy, Pastor Joe Lecce, and his wife, great family. He was an educator in Longwood for quite some time, and in his retirement, he's focused more in his church, and it's a great community partner.
Yeah, and I think we're, speaking of Longwood, I think you have your scholarship night coming up where you're participating in.
We do, yes.
Is this the first year? Or?
No, this is probably the 15th, 14th year.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
We have 5 scholarships for each of the fire departments in Longwood community, so Ridge, Middle Island, Yaphank, Coram, and Gordon Heights.
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And you work with each of you do an interesting way. So you work with the local fire department, team up with them, and then they choose the recipient?
Correct, yes. It's either a member of the junior or a member of the fire department or a family member of the fire department who has a child that's graduating and going on to college.
And is it a set amount for each scholarship?
Each fire department, that's a $1,000 scholarship for each recipient from the fire department. In the past, some fire departments have split it where 2 recipients each get $500. Other years, it's just been 1 recipient. This year, we have 5 recipients out of all 5 departments.
$5,000. Wow, that's very generous. Very nice.
Thank you.
That's great. Wow. And that makes a big difference. That helps.
Yeah, we got to start a scholarship for junior clerk in training or something.
See, there you go. You didn't know you had to make more investments during this radio show. But that's fantastic. I know you had your shredding events recently.
We have, and actually Jim helped us out, and his daughter Olivia. It was a great turnout this year in Riverhead. Every year it's been a great turnout.
People actually they've been calling town hall. They call town hall. Are you doing that? I said, it's not us doing it. It's Tuthill-Mangano. We'll partner with them, and we certainly put on our board, and some people know that it's there, but they think it's a town event. That's how well it's received. It's actually Mangano family.
Yeah, that's and people look forward to that. And now once you start, the people on an annual basis look forward to it, and between that and now, the Toys for Tots, you started to do more engagement, I think, in Riverhead this year, too.
Yes.
Which is great.
It's great. Toys for Tots is a great organization. All the toys are donated right to, the Marine Corps picks them up, and then they donate them to kids in need, which is amazing. And with the Toys for Tots, they stay in the community. Basically they stay on Long Island.
Yeah. And I know that, which is, super important, because I believe from one of the things that we were told that was actually overall in terms of the Toys for Tots donations on Long Island, they were a little less than they thought, in terms of the actual donation. So, getting involved, being able to promote and get the community to give back is so important. But that's great.
Thank you,
Jim. I want to, you police officer, councilman, clerk. Obviously, you found a way to kind of work with everybody, right? Diverse constituencies, cross-party lines.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like from your experience and your approach, and your involvement in the community, talk a little bit about leadership and how to work with people. I think that's so important in today's day, when things are so polarizing. How do you kind of rise above all of that?
I do, and I really don't. I don't draw the line in the sand. You know what I mean? It's people. It all comes down to sometimes listening more than talking. I listen to people all the time, and the whole time I'm not listening, I'm not formulating my rebuttal. I'm just listening to what they have to say. I say, well, that's. I let them have their say. I might not agree with them, but I'm not going to argue with them either. So, and it's a mutual respect type of thing. Everybody has feelings, and we're all innately the same when it comes to what our desires are and our needs are as a family and as a people. But our politics sometimes can muddy the waters. So you gotta let that go. I don't. There's been some pretty heated debates in my house too, but it's we keep that private. But in a public life, you really can't do that. You got to be willing to listen, and you don't have to agree, but you have to be respectful. So that's how I've always done it. I've always, maybe from being a police officer, if you treat yourself the way like everybody's listening to what you have to say and everybody's watching your every move. So if you govern yourself with that attitude, then you temper yourself. You make yourself a better person, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
No, that's great. And then, the town clerk's office, how big is that office? Do you have?
I have two wonderful staff members. I have a deputy town clerk, Vanessa LeCan, and I have a senior clerk, Carol DeVecchio. There's two full-time clerks, and I just hired a part-time Spanish interpreter clerk who's going to start in 2 weeks. And I'm looking forward to that. So, just three of us in the office, really.
Oh, okay.
And we get it done. Well, I talked to the other clerks in the town that have much bigger staff. Of course, Ken, has, 400 or 500 people in his office, I guess, but I don't know what that is. But we do everything. It's not. I'll jump up from the desk and come help you with your dog license. I'm not above any of that. So. Yeah.
That's great. And so, I know you work at, the funeral home, at Tuthill-Mangano Funeral Home.
Well, I worked there for four years full-time. And then, I still have the occasion to go and help out and maybe work at a wake service or a prayer service. It's in my blood, and it's just the interaction with the family. We've all gone through loss, every one of us. We've lost somebody we care about. So those feelings are real, and so I like that interaction with the families, and so that's why I'll never stop doing it, really, unless you throw me out.
Absolutely not.
There's other funeral plans. But no, I do like that. I appreciate that Sal gave me the opportunity, and
we appreciate all your help.
And when I retired, he said, when I turned myself out of the office, he goes, "Come on, come work for me." So. It was nice. It was a way I could keep in touch with the community, because you're just seeing community families every day. So I think that helped too a little bit. But I didn't go to the wayside, so the public knows me. They know my name, and maybe it's because of the rooting for Wooten. I don't know, but they know the name, and they're like, "Oh, I know you. So
that's great. And so with Tuthill-Mangano Funeral Home, I know it's such a bedrock of the local community, and the Mangano family who runs that does such a fantastic job. Sal, if somebody wants to get in touch with any of your funeral homes, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best number to reach us on is 631-586-3600, and that one number is the main number, and I can be reached any time at that number.
Gotcha. And I know also like pre-planning is such an important topic these days, and a tool that many people should really consider in part of their estate planning even.
Yes.
How do they get in touch with you on that?
You could reach us at the same number, 631-586-3600. We're a member of the Pre-Plan, which is the New York State Funeral Directors Association's pre-planning investment tool.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Sal Mangano, Mangano Family Funeral Homes, Mangano Family Foundation, Jim Wooten. We're rooting for you always.
Thank you very much.
Riverhead Town
Thank you
Clerk.
very much.
Thank you both for
Appreciate it.
joining us today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.